We're going to get started now, and I promise you that we will speed things up and we will get moving through today and get you out to work on time. So if you would let me introduce a few things here to begin. I just want to say thank you for coming and welcome to the 2013 West Michigan Economic and Commercial Real Estate Forecast. This is sponsored by Colliers West Michigan and also the Seidman College of Business at Grand Valley State University. And we just want to especially thank Seidman College and Grand Valley State University for again teaming with us to put this event on. It's been a pleasure to work with them. I should know, 12, 13 years, something like that. And we greatly appreciate the involvement we've had with them in putting together this program that we hope is informative for you as we take a small look back, but really take a look forward at what's going to happen this coming year and what to expect. Again, this year, this thing could not happen without some underwriting and some sponsors, and I just want to mention a couple of our sponsors real quick. We have a new sponsor this year. It's our lead gold sponsor, and it's Cohen Financial. Kathy Bronkema is here. She has an office downtown. She's been extremely active in the market this year in providing debt for markets, for activities. You'll see some of those details. Kathy will be one of the panelists today up on the podium up here when we get to that part of the program. Our silver sponsors this year include some longtime sponsors, some that have been with us from the beginning and also some that are new this year. And I'd just like to quickly thank some of our silver sponsors. 99 Monroe, that's a building that a lot of people know as a Comerica building. It was new ownership this year, undergoing a large rehab right now, and they are one of our sponsors. Allegra Printing has helped us with a lot of the details along the way with this. Custer Office Furniture has been a longtime supporter of this event, and again is a supporter again today. Eastern Floral has helped us. First American Title for a very long time, and also new this year is Sun Title, and we're very grateful and thankful to have these sponsors. Without them, it would be very hard for us to pull this off. If you would, give them a round of applause for doing that. Thank you. We have a couple things a little bit different this year, but we're going to get right to it, and it'll be a lot the same. But I read a quote over the last 30 days that made me think of the group of people that's in this room today. And the quote is by Brooks Atkinson, and here's his quote. He said, "This nation," and I personally would change that to say West Michigan as well as this nation, but this nation and West Michigan was built by men and women who were not afraid of the wilderness, by business people who were not afraid of failure, scientists who were not afraid of the truth, by thinkers who were not afraid of progress, and by dreamers who were not afraid of action. And I thank you, all of you in this room who are here today, because you are the people who have built and thought and dreamed of things and ways to make West Michigan a better place to be. And I thank you for taking time out of your schedule to come here and, again, improve our quality of life in West Michigan. Today we're going to hear from some of those thinkers and business people who contribute to build West Michigan as well as beyond. And it is my pleasure at this point to introduce a new speaker this year, Dr. Paul Eisley. Dr. Paul, if you could come on up. And he's going to take the place of our Harry Singh, who was here for years, is no longer with the college or the university. So Dr. Paul Eisley is he's a professor of economics at the Seidman College of Business, and he's going to take our lead presentation at this point. Thank you.
All right. The best part of this is Harry always used to start with truth in what occurred the last year, and I get to tell his truth instead of my truth, so I get a freebie year. But as we look at the update from last year and look at the year across, the final estimated average is looking at somewhere in the 2% range. We'll know better in the next week here. And Harry was showing 2 to 3%, so on the bottom end of the range that he was giving. If we look at the local area employment numbers, he was looking at 1.5 to 2%, at least through as far as we can look at. The number is coming in at 1.4%, so still pretty good for a local number. So we can start this year and look at where we're heading. So the factors affecting growth. First of all, manufacturing growth is slowing down a little bit from what we saw a couple years ago. So this year was a little slower, and we can expect that the coming year is going to look an awful lot like last year did. So in Michigan, that's because of automotive. Here's the big growth coming out of the recession, and you'll notice here at the end it's a little bit flatter. So despite the fact that we have some really good replacement cycles going on automotive, there's not a lot of push for us to get much above that 15.5 million units. When we look at the ISM numbers, I'm giving you the numbers here for the U.S. The West Michigan numbers have been slightly more optimistic than the U.S. numbers all year long. And the purple one there is China. So you'll notice that since the middle of the year, Chinese employment in manufacturing has been on the slowing side, not on the accelerating side. And the U.S. has been on the accelerating side all year long, but that acceleration is slowing down. Here in West Michigan, that's been the case as well. Employment, however, has stayed above the 20-year average for most of the year in West Michigan, and we expect it to stay right in that range for the rest of next year. The overall employment numbers, you can see, this is a very messy graph, but I sort of like it. That top blue line is Holland. I keep bumping the button, so I'm trying to make you go a little faster through the slides. That top button there, that top line is Holland. So you can see that Ottawa County has been seeing a faster growth than everybody else. All right? Those middle lines there are Grand Rapids and Michigan and the United States. That bottom line there, that purple line, is Detroit. So Detroit is still growing slower than the national, and that's keeping Michigan sort of pegged down a little bit, so we're not seeing the acceleration that the west side is providing for us. All right? And our consumers are primed because our transition rate to being late on your loan, whatever that loan happens to be, a car loan, a credit card loan, or a house loan, we're seeing the transition rate is back to where we were before the recession. So people are getting late, but no faster than they used to. All right? And we've seen the debt service as a percentage of income go back to the low levels that we saw in the past. So people have debt, but it's not so bad. And finally, new foreclosures are elevated, but only slightly elevated now compared to where we were before. And last, here in West Michigan, even in our bad areas, Grand Rapids, Holland, Granville, if you read the report last year, you saw that those areas were still decelerating and seeing their prices fall in residential housing. Even they have bottomed out this year. So those places that were good last year are really good this year. All right? This gives the consumer a little ways to go, so let's see where the confidence survey goes this year. All indicators point to continued growth, but if you want to envision what it's going to look like, think about last year, and you'll probably get it about right. All right? We're looking at slightly weaker expectations on sales and basically the same expectations on employment growth that we saw last year. The confidence index, if you look, if we take out the government and non-private sectors, is pretty flat this year compared to last year, but it is back to that range that we saw through the 2000s. And interestingly enough, the government non-private sector this year got really excited. So things are looking up on that end. I'm not sure what that means for us, but so where are we on employment? This graph, if you put it and overlay it with last year's graph, looks almost exactly the same. It's slightly higher. There's a few more people expecting to hire a higher percentage than they did last year. So we've shifted up our growth rate this year slightly. All right. We're also getting to a point where people have retrained and can handle these things a little bit better. If we dig deeper into these numbers, we're also noting that more than 60% of these people are talking permanent workers now and not temporary workers. So that's all good news as well. And we continue to have the structural unemployment issue here in West Michigan, where we have factories and commercial folks looking for workers and not finding people with the skills that will work. All right? And so hopefully as we go through this year, we'll start to get out of that cycle. How about sales? These numbers are almost exactly identical to last year. The mean is a 2.4% increase in sales, and last year it was a 2.5%. It's looking like a good chunk of this is coming out of exports. This is the one major graph that looks substantially different for West Michigan than last year. We can see that last year we were expecting 7%, this year 5.4%. And this really is indicative to what we're seeing in Europe and what we've been seeing in China. The good news about that is both those economies appear to be picking up compared to where they were at the middle of last year. So those are all good things. And finally, we're starting to see people become a little more optimistic here in West Michigan. Last year, that purple area was 57%. So the people expecting us to get back to reasonable times 2 years from now, which are the pessimistic people, was 57%. It's now down to 52%. It's a small but meaningful movement, and we're starting to see a shift in all of these colors towards being slightly more optimistic than we were last year. So that's happiness, but it's only a slight movement. So what is our summary here? We're seeing employment 1.7 to 2.3% growth across the Kent, Ottawa, Muskegon, Allegan regions. We're expecting overall sales in the 2.4% range. Export increases will be slower than last year, and we're projecting a 5.4%. And we're seeing slowing growth in a couple of sectors that have been driving our growth here in West Michigan. Health-related sector is slowing down a little bit this year as they retool and worry a little bit about the changes in the healthcare laws. So we've seen a drop in confidence in that side. And manufacturing sector continues to see strength, but sees themselves not growing as fast as they did before. So the growth we're seeing now in West Michigan is coming in on the services side. The U.S., we're looking at 2 to 3% overall GDP growth. Be very, very careful of the U.S. numbers here in January, February. We're still having a small seasonal adjustment problem. If you go back through the last few years, you probably remember almost every January, everybody's like, look how fast it's going, things are really great. And then by the middle of the year, they're a little depressed. That's really a seasonal adjustment problem coming in. So you're going to see some decent January employment numbers, and they're going to be slightly better than what they really are. All right? But if we take the year, we're really looking at job growth about like last year, which will get our unemployment rate down to the mid-7s at the end of the year. All right? What's my big caveat? The federal government. All right? They're the ones who will make me wrong. They'll make me wrong up. They'll make me wrong down. And I can't predict what they're going to do. But this is what we can say. The uncertainty of what they're going to do has taken more than $2 trillion out of the economy if we look at banks and businesses holding cash compared to what they normally do. All right? That cash is sitting there because people are really scared about what's going to happen. A big chunk of that is the U.S. government. It's taking more than 1% off of GDP growth this year. The faster they get rid of the uncertainty, the faster that we get back that 1%. The budget deal that we got in January takes about 0.5 to 1% off of growth for this year, but we all expected it, so it's not a big deal. We also expect that the February-March cuts that will end up happening sometime will cut another 0.5 to 1%. You'll notice that the combination of all those things is less than the uncertainty. So even a bad deal was better than sitting around and not having any deal. So the search for the perfect deal is slowing us down pretty badly. So we need to remove that uncertainty. So we will bring up my esteemed colleague, Casey, to handle the next step.
Thanks. Let's see, do you have the remote? Great. Well, it's great to be back here with you. The weather's a little cooler than in Atlanta, but I'm going back to an ice storm tonight in Atlanta, so I guess the bad weather, you can blame it on me when I come. My prediction, Paul, is that next year you're going to have a perfect score. I really am in a lot of agreement with your points and your forecasts here. So the title of my presentation is, what's important in 2013, and you see I've emphasized the port part of important, really emphasizing what's going on with the ports. In industrial, I think will tell quite a bit. Like Paul, we must have all been scarred by parochial education, and we must feel like we have to start with confession here. So we give our report card for last year. I had 12 years of it in the high school with Christian Brothers, so definitely scarred. So last year when I spoke with you, my theme was brake and throttle. Where's the friction and where is the acceleration? Well, obviously the friction is the federal government. Anytime you have a word like caveat that's French and federal government follows, we know we're in trouble. Maybe caveat is French for federal government fouled up. We'll put that one out there. And so if you know, my solution at the end of last year was what we need to do is we need to undam everything, right? We need to undam regulation and whatnot. Unfortunately, that wasn't a winning campaign theme this past year. I think they decided to clog it up some more. So what's my forecast for 2013? And where did I come in my numbers for last year? So like most economists and weathermen, we pick the 5 days or the 5 metrics that we got right during the year. So these are the 5 I will claim that I talked about the most last year. And my score, of course, is 80%. When we talk industrial, I was perfect on industrial. I didn't miss any of those metrics. On political forecasting, I got a 0 last year. I was completely wrong. So the first one was, GDP. I was more on the low end. I thought we would really struggle to see 1.5% GDP. We have finalized, put in the books Q1 through Q3, and that's a 2.1% average. We'll get next week the first guess, I guess, at fourth quarter, and we'll then spend 90 days revising it. I joked last evening with some folks, if you in industry were allowed to operate like the federal government with information and data, it could be real chaos in the economy. So the federal government, it operates where they just throw numbers out and then they revise them for 6 months. So could you imagine running a company where you say, well, here's some numbers, let's go trade on the stock this way. And somewhere over the next 6 months, we'll give you the real information. You think the SEC would go for that? Probably not, but that's how government operates on its data. I think that the fourth quarter numbers, right, Dr. Isley was pointing out, you really take them with a grain of salt. One, I think we brought forward a lot of activity. People fearful of the capital gains taxes, so we know a lot of activity was brought forward, and then the seasonal adjustments. And it's the first guess, and the first guess of the first of the year is always wrong, so I think it'll revise down. My fear is the first quarter, when we get into the spring and we see what the first quarter numbers are. My recommendation is don't freak out. I think most of us should just go to Florida or Arizona for about 90 days and not look at economic data and then come back in the spring. And I think the second half of the year is really set up to look pretty good. So I think I was okay on GDP. I was at the low end of the range. Home prices, I had forecast that we would finally see the bottom in the home price and the housing situation. When I briefed Chairman Bernanke in 2007 on the housing crisis, and they thought it would just be a little problem. And my briefing that will be released in the FOMC minutes here for this year, age them 5 years, like a bad wine, only age it 5 years. And my forecast was you're looking at probably at least a 5 to 10 year problem in housing. And they thought I was nuts, and that's why I probably had to leave the Fed after 5 years. And so here we are, the 6th year, and we're finally getting there. So I'll take that one. Warehouse to be the star performer, we absolutely saw that. And the problem in warehouse where we're not seeing more transaction activity, there's no product for sale. If you've got an industrial portfolio today and you're getting a good coupon out of it, I'd recommend this is the time you sell everything. I think you look at it's a perfect storm for you in terms of prices and capital and cap rates and everything. But if you've got a portfolio and you've got to replace it, what are you going to do with that cash? Right? You're probably looking at new construction. So people don't want to let go of portfolios right now. And with everything that's happening with the Panama Canal and the ports, industrial is, I think, going to continue to strengthen. I think we could see and read before the year is over with, if a portfolio of industrial came to market, we could see us go below 5% cap rates on industrial. Absolutely phenomenal. CMBS, I forecast that we would break a record 10% delinquencies and defaults, and we did that in July and August. It's come back down because they figured out how to change the accounting. So loans that are maturing, that's what we do in the government, right? Or anything in the United States. So what happened is if a loan matures and it can't refinance, as long as they continue to pay the last payment, they're not considered to be a delinquency or default. And that's a violation of GAAP accounting, but they're letting them do that in CMBS. So if you really put that back in, we're at about 10.5 to 11% on the delinquencies. The one I really blew, I just blew this one completely. I really thought we would see the end of cap rate compression everywhere but warehouse. And thanks to the Fed, I think we could see the bar even go lower. There is so much capital on the sidelines and such a dearth of product for sale that I think there is room for even more cap rate compression. So that's the one I blew big time. So what am I looking at for 2013? Being in the South too long, I grew up in Colorado, I put about 5 pounds on a year. I got to reverse that trend. So I vowed to eat healthier this year. So I'm cutting back on my fried foods and eating healthier type of soups and stuff. And so in my first of the year, alphabet soup, I was reading the letters in there. And what they told me to do was to go look for direction outside government data in places that you normally wouldn't look. So as you know, last year I shared with you a few unique indicators to look at. I'll share a few more with you this year. So the first one I really pay attention to, and this is and this government data comes more from the state level when we get it right rather than the federal government, but look at the MSA level job growth numbers. And it is a phenomenal story, and I'll show you the detail on that in a minute, and it's great for your upper Midwest region. And I think that'll continue. In the top 25, you've got markets like Detroit, St. Louis, Minneapolis, all there. You just wouldn't have believed you would have that kind of representation 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago in the top 25. The next, if you don't believe in the housing recovery, look at this index called the National Association of Home Builders Improved Market Index. They created this in 2008. The real free fall in the housing crisis to look at what would constitute a true improving housing market. Because home price appreciation, it depends on what you got for sale. So I can play all kinds of games whether there's really home price appreciation. My real gauge is going to be what did the last 2 homes in my neighborhood sell for? And they're not doing so well in Atlanta. We're worse than Las Vegas and Phoenix. But what this index does, it looks at about 8 different metrics. And you've got to be improving in all of those: foreclosure activity, job growth. And so home price appreciation is just one part of it. And so in 2008, 2009, no markets in there at all. A sprinkling in 2010, a few in 2011. Guess where this index ended for 2012? Anybody want to guess? 50 markets? Anybody say 100 markets? 201 markets. And I'll show you the map in a minute. It'll blow your mind. And the upper Great Lakes region and Midwest is incredibly well represented in that. This is the best forward-looking housing indicator that I can direct you to. Forget all of the noise about home prices and existing home sales and all that kind of stuff that'll just have us going in different directions and looking for medications. This one will really give you true clarity. The next one is called ONEI, the On the Numbers Economic Index. And this is a new index produced by all of America's business journals. So the guys that are in the market and they're interacting with you in industry and they're reporting on everything, including your local business journals here. And once a month they get together and they rank the top 102 markets in the country. And this is when you're looking at capital sources that are nervous about going to a secondary or a tertiary market, this is the kind of information they need to have. This is live, on the ground economic information that is showing the strength of the story in secondary and tertiary markets right now in the country. The next one, those of you in industrial and industry, one of my favorites produced by the Association of American Railroads is Rail Time Indicators. Any of you deal with that or look at that? It's a phenomenal index. It's out each month, and they track almost everything that moves or is engaged in the railroad world. Tremendous indicators, and I'll share with you some of the metrics there in just a second. The Journal of Commerce is a great one. If you're trying to follow the port stories, labor strife, intermodal, what's tracking all the way up between Canada and Mexico in trade, it's about $300 a year. Just phenomenal coverage, and what I like about it is in the articles, they give you the direct links to the primary data. Even if it's licensed data, you can get to the raw data. So it's really easy, real great source. The next one is Dodge Pipeline. Dodge Pipeline is kind of the oldest entity that tracks construction detail, new construction, down to the project level. It covers every county in the country. And so when the capital sources, one of the problems they're going to have now when we start new construction is wondering how much is too much, or who else has got something in the planning pipeline. And so we're going to have to dust off our old books here and go back and remember how much job growth or economic activity do we need to justify how many units of new construction? And this is a great resource, and I'll share some numbers with you on that. And the last one I would encourage you to do is start looking at company 10Qs, because they tell the SEC 90 days before it gets out into the market what they're going to do, where they're going next, where they're going to put a new plant, where they're looking at least, and what they're thinking about. And there is just a treasure trove of information. So for your local companies or in your region, there's all kinds of good nuggets in those 10Qs that I encourage you to look at. So let's quickly go through a few of these. MSA level job growth. The big story here, how many of you would have believed 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago that someone would be sitting up here and saying the United States would go through another manufacturing renaissance? That we'd absolutely see a rebirth of manufacturing? I wouldn't have 3, 4 years ago. But that's exactly what's happening. And it's being driven by 3 things. The first is patent protection. So most of our industry has realized that when they went abroad to Asia or to India or whatnot, it was like going to Las Vegas. Everything had to stay there. And it wasn't, their intellectual property wasn't protected. And so given it's the intellectual technology, the systems, what you figure out in the manufacturing process is really of value. And to protect that, the industry is no longer going or wanting to be in Asia or India. They want to come back here where that technology is protected. The second thing is a wonderful thing that the Fed has done. We have a great currency advantage for manufacturing. The Fed's destroying the value of the dollar. So this is where you want to manufacture again. Look at the euro this morning. We're at 133. Look at the Japanese currency. I mean, this is where you want to manufacture again from a currency advantage. And the third thing that we've underappreciated, because our politicians keep telling us that we're terrible at it, is we have tremendous skilled labor. We have tremendous infrastructure, ports, rail. You go anywhere else in the world and try to find the population of architects, engineers, IT specialists, rail, road infrastructure, port infrastructure. Nowhere else in the world do we have all of that. And probably nowhere in the United States is it as well put together as it is here in the Midwest and the Upper Great Lakes region. You put those 3 things together, and that's a perfect storm for bringing manufacturing back to the United States. We're even seeing furniture manufacturing come back from India to the United States and to North Carolina. It is a very real trend. So here's the top 25 markets. In the red box at the bottom there, I've highlighted some of the markets in your neighbors here, St. Louis, also further up, Columbus and Cincinnati. But these are the top 25 in job growth last year at the MSA level. And so when you have people questioning whether the Midwest is a place they want to be or a secondary market, look at the representation in those numbers. Here's the National Association of Home Builders Improved Market Index. This is a kind of a heat map or a green map, since we all have to be green. The green shading represents those markets, those MSAs, that are classified as improving housing markets. That's the 201 markets. And I put a red ring around the Midwest there. Look at that. This is a very broad-based. Also note, except for Florida in the Texas coastline, so Houston and southern Florida and western Florida, the Tampa area, this is an inland growth story. Right? So where do we do a lot of our overbuilding, right? We did it in the coastal markets, the high-priced markets. So you didn't have the overbuilding to begin with, and now where's the job creation? It's inland, it's manufacturing. You don't put a manufacturing plant in Charleston, South Carolina, or La Jolla, California, right? You come here where you can get your labor, your energy, all those things. This is a list of the markets on that map that go with it, and you see in the blue shading, those are all of the markets for Michigan. And Michigan ranks number 4 or 5 as a state with the most number of improved housing markets. And both Grand Rapids in the dark blue and Holland are listed there. So Kathy, it was a great time to build a house last year. That's approved marketing condition. Texas is number 1 with 18 markets in the list. And Florida, this may surprise a lot of you, has number 2 with 15. And California, and it's mainly if you go back in the map, it's all the inland areas in California that are improving, not necessarily the coastal areas. So this is a great one. If anybody's doubting the housing recovery story, I think this is the proof of it. This is the on the numbers economic index of recovering markets. So a little hard to read, but I wanted you to have the list to know what it looks like. In yellow, I've got shaded there. You've got Grand Rapids in there, making it into the top 50 improved markets. I mean, that's phenomenal. So when you have capital or investors are saying, why Grand Rapids? What's so important about it? Is it really good? Here's the kind of stuff that they need, because the capital coming here, whether it's foreign or out of Canada or institutional, Many of them over the last 5 to 7 years no longer have the talent that knows how to underwrite, that goes into markets and visits properties in markets, and they have no clue what a Grand Rapids is. All they know is it's probably some cold place near the Great Lakes, right? And they don't understand your story. And so this is part of our job in industry, in our profession. We have got to get, and you've got to get this story out. And so I'm trying to give you some tools here that'll help break down and encourage that for them. The next one here is the rail time indicators. This is kind of a snapshot of a few of them by the Association of American Railroads. A few of them that I think are really important that I track regularly. So I look at intermodal traffic. So the first thing to start with is, how many Class I railroads do we have in North America? We have 7. That's it. We're not making any more. 2 of them are Canadian, so 5 here primarily in the States here. And intermodal traffic has been going up every month, every quarter for the past 2 years. And when you look at capacity utilization on our railroads, we're now approaching almost 80% capacity utilization. That means there's no margin of error for a train wreck. You know, the 20% gives you enough capacity just to have one train wreck and get it cleared within about a week and fix the tracks. We're running almost full capacity on our railroads. And to put it in further perspective, you look at the last one, rail cars in storage. Until December, November-December period, every month for almost 2 years, we had seen rail cars coming out of storage back on the tracks. Why would rail cars in storage have gone back up in reverse trend in November and December? Anybody paying attention? 2 things were going on. First of all, we had a little strike in LA. Clerical workers shut down our busiest port in North America. Clerical workers that were unhappy with $150,000 a year salaries. Okay? True story. The second thing is we had an impending strike that now has moved to February 6th for the end of the year. And so the railroads were seeing that shippers and everybody were trying to move and accelerate by truck stuff off the docks to get it moved into the stores and stuff. And so they said, we're going to go ahead and take some of these rail cars out of capacity. And now that deadline has been kicked down the road to February, and so they're still holding those out. So this has more to do with the strike than it does demand or anything else. The retailers are in total chaos there. And the one above that, railroad employment. We're back now. We're seeing railroad hiring up every month, every quarter, and we're now back to the peak record of 2008. So do you think we are in a recession from manufacturing? Do you believe ISM? Do you believe the Fed numbers of, you know, the Empire State Index or whatever that's primarily affected by Hurricane Sandy or trade with Europe? That is not representative of manufacturing in the rest of the country. This is representative of the whole country. And so if we're moving this much stuff on the rails, we have to be doing pretty well in manufacturing. This is the Dodge pipeline. The slide you should never put up this busy, but I wanted you to have it for takeaway when you can get this after the program here. But this is all of the new construction, the industrial construction, primarily in the United States. We only have 32 million square feet of new industrial space underway. Think of that. That's not a lot. To put it in perspective, in the 2000 to 2008 timeframe, Atlanta and Dallas would have had about that much under construction by themselves at any point in time. So this is not a lot of construction. In Michigan, you have less than 500,000 square feet. There is no product. You guys have been very prudently reutilizing older and existing buildings and factories. That is a huge opportunity. Find all of those you can do. Don't be afraid of environmental issues or whatnot. Go through the pain, because it's a whole lot better than trying to build new construction and go through. Wait till you see the fees that have been tacked on to new construction to make up for budget deficits at the local level. When you look at the states with the most construction, Georgia, Tennessee, and Indiana. And what's going on here, if you look when you get this later, the light blue shading, the construction, especially in those states, is all large new distribution and logistics centers. It's Volkswagen building a massive new facility in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's Amazon.com. It's Family Dollar, Family Tree, Publix, Whole Foods, you name it, are building 500,000, 2 million square foot facilities. This is not spec construction. And so when you take that out, almost 80% of what's under construction is owner-occupied, build-to-suit, large distribution, retail facilities. There is not a spec problem. So anybody worried about the uptick in industrial construction, come talk to us. We'll help them get rid of that fear or concern real quickly. So what is my predictions for 2013? So we'll see if I'm as accurate as Dr. Isley. I think he's going to be 100% here. So we'll start and go around clockwise. We'll start with GDP. I think we see a terrible pullback in the first quarter. Again, as Dr. Isley pointed out, the government dysfunctionality. My big fear is that we end up with a second U.S. debt downgrade. I have been shocked that we haven't had it already. Fitch has already come out and said, look, if they keep kicking this down the road or don't act, we're going ahead and we're going to immediately debt downgrade. So I would look for that. Remember the chaos that created August a year ago? It really creates chaos in the capital markets because you don't know how to price spread risk. So any of you trying to get debt and looking at debt over the next 30 days, just get it done. Otherwise, prepare to wait till the spring. It's going to be disruptive. But I think that's coming. But I think we have a horrible GDP situation in the first quarter, maybe through the spring. But I'm really excited about the second half of the year because what is behind our growth in our economy is finally we've gotten rid of the phony stimulants except for interest rate policy. But if you go back, look at autos. We're selling 15.5 million autos without cash for clunkers. Why is that happening? We have an old auto fleet. The average age is over 10.5 years right now. Trucks, it's over 13 years. This is a natural replacement cycle. So that's what's behind this. And finally, if we just keep the government and their phony programs out of the way and Congress, we'll do great on our auto manufacturing. The second is housing. We don't have a phony tax credit program anymore. And when you look at replacement costs, you're able to buy homes now at sub $50 a square foot that cost $200 a square foot to build new. So really look at putting some of those in your 401k or your IRA program. I think you'll do pretty well on that. Employment, I agree with Dr. Isley. Get used to about 150,000 jobs a month. You know, we can create a lot of GDP in manufacturing today without a lot of labor. You look at a new manufacturing facility that used to maybe have 100 to 500 employees in it, and it might have 10 today. It's very automated, and we just don't need the job growth. So we can create a lot of GDP output without a lot of jobs. And I just don't see anything that's going to take us to the 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 a month job level numbers to really erode. And so I think we just have to get used to that maybe 7-8% unemployment is the new structural stability on that side. Here's the other warning I'll throw out there. The Fed has boxed itself into a corner on when it's going to remove quantitative easing. So what did they tell us? 6.5% unemployment? When we get anywhere near it, get ready, the Fed's pulling the fish out of the water. Well, how many of you realize we have 6 unemployment rates in this country? We produce 6 unemployment rates. What the media tells us is what's called the U3 rate, the official government unemployment rate. And the total unemployment rate that really counts everybody is the U6 rate. So when the Labor Department releases its numbers the first full Friday of each month, go look at U6 along with U3. In U3, the reason the U3 unemployment rate has been dropping is primarily because of one reason: people losing their unemployment benefits. All right? So you fall out of U3, you don't fill out the paperwork to go get a check anymore if you're not getting a check. So the government says, oh, you're not looking for a job anymore, you've left the labor force. No, you haven't, you're just not filling out the paperwork. You're still in the U6 number. The U6 unemployment rate's 14.4%. Our labor participation rate is 63.6% in this country. Right? Think about that. Almost 35+% that want adults that are able to work are not working. This morning in the Wall Street Journal, it said Spain reached a new record unemployment rate of 26%. Well, using our labor participation rate, we're worse than Spain on the labor front. A lot more that we should be putting to work here. So my fear is, if you look at the states and the people that will hit their maximum 99 weeks of unemployment insurance this year, by September alone, we could see the unemployment rate, the U3, drop to 7% just from people losing unemployment insurance and not creating one job. And we need to create 150,000 jobs a month just to break even with the new entrants. So if we're producing 150, and this year, or 2012 and 2011, we produced 153,000 jobs a month on average. Same number of the last 2 years. We're barely keeping even with new entrants into the market. And so if we have people falling out because of unemployment insurance, is that really improving employment? So the Fed's boxed itself into a real situation. So this is going to get real interesting to see how they squirm out of this one in the second half of the year. Also remember that Chairman Bernanke retires the end of this year, and 1/3 of the governors rotate out. We are going to have an entirely new central bank next year. And who knows what their theory or philosophies are going to be. Interest rates, this is the one that concerns me the most, the U.S. debt downgrade. I think that this is the closing of the window of these historically low interest rates. Get it done this year. I think that the headwinds that we face in 2014 and 2015 with our fiscal problems, and not just at the federal level, but the state level, Illinois, California, Kentucky, it's a disaster. I think we have a potential, municipal bond program. I think Meredith Whitney is going to come back for a victory lap. I told you so. But this is the year, I think, to really take advantage of these interest rates. I think we're going to then begin to move into a different environment, especially with a new Fed next year. So I would take advantage and get the debt deals done this year. Housing, as you've heard me say, I think the recovery is for real. Follow this National Association of Home Builders Index. Multifamily, I'm going to touch base on just real quickly, because the debate is we're overbuilding multifamily right now. It's over-accelerating. We're doing it in about 5 markets, like Washington, D.C. Here's one of those areas where we need to dust off our old books and ask ourselves, how many jobs do we need to create to build a new apartment unit? Anybody remember? So it's around 8.5, between 8 and 9 jobs for one new multifamily unit. So everybody's freaked out about Texas and how many apartments they're building in Texas. Texas is producing 9.2 jobs for every apartment that it's building. No problem. And you go through most of the markets and most of the construction, we're not overbuilding multifamily at all. What we are doing is we're spending too much money in construction costs, and I wonder if the return on investment is there, assuming 4% Freddie Mac money and 3% cap rates. That's where I worry about that one. On office, it's going to be slow, steady progress. What we're doing in most of our offices, we're reducing the amount of square foot per employee. So companies, when they're renewing leases, are saying we're going to cram more people, to as much as 20% more people, and the ratio has gone from 1 employee per 300 square feet to about 250, and we're going to see that go well below 200 square feet. As a company ourselves, in our new leases, we're seeing ourselves go into the 180 to 200 square feet per employee in new leases that we're doing around the country. So here's the good news if you want to buy an office building in an urban setting. There's going to be more employees in that, more people in that building, which should be stimulative for the street level retail and the demand for the urban housing in the downtown areas. Industrial, it's a tremendous story. Its roots are in the expansion of the Panama Canal. It opens up in 2015. Cargo ships and container ships that today carry 3,000 to 5,000 containers will now carry 12,000 containers. And for the first time, they're going to be able to call port on the East and Gulf Coast ports. If you think about most of the last 50 years, our East Coast ports were military ports. Norfolk, Jacksonville, Charleston, they're now big commerce ports. And they're all going to be what's called post-Panamax ready. They've dredged to 50 feet. They've improved their docks and berthing, and they put in these new super cranes that have higher reaches and broader reaches to unload these big container ships. And Baltimore just became the 2nd port on the East Coast to become post-Panamax ready. New York has to raise the Bayonne Bridge. Charleston's on track to do it with its dredging. Miami is next. Mobile, Alabama is a natural 50-foot port where Airbus is going to be manufacturing, and Houston. And why that's so important for you in the Upper Great Lakes region is we're going to see trade and manufacturing activity move more north-south than east-west. The growth is from Canada through Latin America. The fast-growing GDPs in the world are in Latin America. Walmart just revealed in its earnings this quarter that for the first time, their net sales growth in Latin America surpassed China. We're looking at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% GDPs throughout Latin America. And Latin America is where we were in the 1950s. It's a very consumptive economy, but they've got to build their infrastructure and supply chain. And so a lot of that can't be done right now, so they're going to look at that manufacturing, the processing of foods, all of that done here and in the United States that we're going to move. And we're going to move more of it through the ports, intermodal to the ports, in the port, and then by ship into the ports there. So I think it's just a tremendous story on industrial. This is a picture worth 1,000 words. Well, something happened on the top there. The boxes up there should have said high prices and low cap rates with no vacancy, but think of industrial as like a hotel that has no occupancy, you know, in Las Vegas at convention time or the electronics show. This is a picture. There is almost no vacancy. If you've got an existing older manufacturing building, look at it for retrofit and retro use. Very strong story. To show you how strong the industrial story is, this was a piece that Globe Street just did, and they commissioned a survey where institutional capital is looking at industrial more than apartments, and they look at for 2013 and 2014, the capital flows into investment in industrial could surpass that of multifamily. This is right in your story, in your sweet spot. When you look at how important intermodal is, Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, the Delaware River Port Authority just opened up a major intermodal facility. Canadian National Railway just announced in Indianapolis, they're going to build a massive intermodal facility that will connect to Port Rupert in Canada. So intermodal is an incredible story. So if you've got extra jelly beans in your state budget, you know, look at your connectivity and your interface with rail, because the more you can move by rail into key intermodal facilities with all your manufacturing, I think all the better. This is a quick snapshot of our year-end North American industrial, and I've got our office reports as well. It's a perfect story. Vacancies coming down because absorption's up and no construction, or very little. And so the graphic there is my one I had last year. Basically, we have a lack of construction, a lack of distressed real estate, and strong demand, and you haven't had the same cap rate compression in industrial that you've had in the other property types. You know, up through, you know, the beginning part of last year, we were still looking at 7-8% cap rates on industrial. And now we're looking at deals right now, active deals right now, in the 5.25 to 5.75. If somebody put together a portfolio, and one of the things we talked about last evening was, think about putting together, you might have 2 or 3 properties, and someone else in a similar market might have 2 or 3 properties. We're trying to work with clients to maybe put together a hybrid portfolio of 10 or 20 assets. The life companies and capital sources want to put out chunks of $100 million. And if you put the pieces together for them in a big chunk, they'll really trip over their feet for that. So let's think about those strategies. This is the office one. And so I'll wrap up again what I think are my key risks. Congress, you know, the caveat, the French word, federal government, Dr. Isley there. Look for that second U.S. downgrade. Be prepared for it. Anything you can get done the next 30 days, do it. Otherwise, don't panic. Go to Florida, go to Arizona, come back in 90 days. Everything will be fine. The port strike. This is really important because port labor strife is going to be with us for the next 2 years. And it's not just a domestic issue, it's a global issue. We're seeing it in Asia, Europe, and Latin America. And the issue is the ILA's contract. It has these master agreements with different parts of the country. And their master agreement with the East Coast and the Gulf Coast ports expired last October. And so they deferred it to December 29th for a strike, and now they've deferred it to February 6th. And I don't think they're going to get it resolved. And what's at issue is port automation. The ports are becoming more automated to be interfaced with the big ships out of the Panama Canal. And what's important is whatever deal they set with the East Coast and Gulf Coast ports is going to set the precedent for West Coast next year. The contract for all the West Coast ports is up next year. And the West Coast ports are tremendously more unionized, and they're way behind on automation. And so it's kind of like, you know, what the UAW does to the automobile manufacturers. They say, who's the healthiest with the most profits? We're going to negotiate first with them to set a contract, and then we're going to use that as precedent for everybody else. What happens and what they extract out of this issue, or whether they strike, will be a precursor for the West Coast. And then we have in the upper Midwest, the grain ports of Seattle and Portland. The grain union is all in disruption, and we could look at huge grain strikes here in the spring and summer. So any of you in the ag business, really be paying attention to that. Washington and Oregon are really at a really dire situation with their situation there. The end of the Bernanke Fed, people are just starting to think about this. They'll start to think about it the second half of the year. I think this is why interest rates begin to move, and you'll see more activity in the second half of the year. Bernanke goes away. These are very complicated policies and programs he put in place. Who are they going to put in place to replace him? What are going to be the new governors? I mean, we're going to have a totally different central bank with a different philosophy a year from now. And that's going to be very disruptive to the market. Housing, a great story. Job growth in the secondary MSAs, it's a real story. We need to get it out. You guys are part of that story. And it's important to getting the capital, both institutional and the stuff that's coming in out of Canada, out of Australia, and the rest of the world. It's important to get it here. In industrial, I think it's still the star performer. So that's my spiel.
Thank you. Mic on? Mic on now? There we go. Thank you, Casey. Panels are taking a seat here. While they get comfortable, I'm going to go quickly through just a snapshot of how our local commercial real estate market ended up for the year. So this is kind of a historical look at where we've been. We're going to dive into a handful of questions, many of which you've submitted to us. So with that, I will get moving. First off, vacancy rates. Vacancy rates, for those of you who are new to the commercial real estate industry, this is how we measure our supply. This goes back to 2006 and comes through 2012. What's interesting is Well, let me start first. Industrial, off to the side. Last year, 2012, when I was standing here, we ended the year at 8.6%. We had another year of significant positive absorption. And I wanted to put the square footage on there this year just to put that into context, because sometimes 1% doesn't mean anything. That's actually 1.6 million square feet of positive absorption right here in West Michigan, which is quite something. The office market, again, they're the dark blue line, so that top line, they're looking at, what, 8 or 9 quarters of positive absorption. It's quite something if you think about the headlines and the market conditions and the perception of where we've been the last several years. The office market has made a nice recovery, and then you compound that with what Casey just said. You know, the average office user today is putting more bodies in less space. So you throw that factor in there and say there's still positive momentum, which is encouraging. And then the retail market, that has been our lagger in West Michigan and I think throughout the nation. Trending in the right direction. They did pick up another 166,000 square feet of positive absorption. Transaction velocity. So this is just how, this simply done deals. How many deals took place, just kind of measuring the pace of the marketplace. This is for Kent County alone, and it goes back a couple years, and you can see just overall trend, the sales momentum, the number of transactions that took place in the marketplace have continued to increase over time. This next slide is the leasing activity. Again, 2009, 2010, leasing did come, you know, it did slow down. We're seeing it back to that normal kind of ebb and flow. You see it kind of tick up and down, but again, increasing overall. So overall velocity in the marketplace, just user demand is, again, strong and recovering. Our cap rates don't look quite like the cap rates Casey's mentioning at a national level, which is good for us, because what it does is it attracts money to this market. If you've got an option in Chicago for 5% and you can come here for 8%, it gets pretty interesting. But you can see our cap rates over time have, again, 2009, bad year, cap rates went higher, lower selling price. As the cap rates come down, that selling price goes up. Continued cap rate compression we saw last year, and you know, going from 9.25% to 8.97%. So that cap rate compression is significant. This is a crude graph, but it does paint a pretty simple picture. Industrial sales per square foot. So what's the sale dollar per square foot? And you can see going back to 2008, it kind of paints the story. I mean, that right there is our economic swing, I think. It shows where the pricing was before the downturn. 2009, our pricing dropped, and we're now at record numbers in our industrial sales at $1 per square foot. Look at the office, again, same story. You look at industrial has almost doubled their per square foot value from the downturn, and office is not far behind. Not quite double, but again, significant increase in that $1 per square foot just on a sales transaction. Retail, there's our lagger, right? So retail has been the one that I think delayed, came into the storm later than the rest of us. Their flywheel is spinning longer, and the downturn has taken them longer to rebound. The good news is, again, positive absorption, good trend. This is an interesting slide. It takes a minute to try to digest. We've looked at this the last several years. It's kind of new to us. I'd say we looked at it the last maybe 3 years now. Information we want to look at as we kind of came into the downturn, understanding what does our future look like, what's the pipeline of troubled assets. So what we did is we looked at 5 local banks. That's key. These are not banks that have a regional or, you know, outside of West Michigan footprint. We want to get local data to paint the picture here locally. And this is what they report as a percentage of their loans that are either 90 days past due, non-accrual status, or owned real estate. So as they report this, you can see kind of the wave building. Midway through that chart is 2009. So in 2009, when things in our marketplace really kind of came to a standstill, so to speak, we were looking at this wall. We knew we had a pipeline of troubled assets to deal with. You can see the wave is crested, right? Overall, West Michigan, we're compressed. The troubled asset pipeline is really almost a non-factor now. Yeah, there's still some cleanup to be done, but nothing like we had a couple years ago. That's influencing pricing across the board. So overall summary at this stage, we're going to jump into some questions here, is, right now it's very strong. Certain segments are stronger than I think most people realize. Capital and debt are very much increasingly available. So again, it's game changing for us over the last couple of years. Like Casey said, who would have imagined, we'd be where we're at right now? Quality inventory is certainly becoming a concern, and I would say across the board. Office, retail, industrial. We have users who we cannot find homes for today. And again, that perception, I think, is there's a gap between the reality and the perception. So that's just a quick snapshot of where we've been. I'm going to lean on the experts here to talk about where we're going. I've got a handful of questions, again, many of which you've submitted to us as we've sent some emails out to you. Just by way of quick introduction, Mike Murray on the far side. Mike is our retail broker, so he's coming from a retail mindset. David Weiner is sitting next to him. He's office property types. Kathy Bronkema, she's with Cohen Financial, so she's finding us those buckets of money to tap into. And Colin Cray sitting next to Duke. Colin's focused on investment real estate, so that can be all property types, but again, focused on the landlord-investor perspective. Duke's background is, and his focus is industrial, so he's coming from the industrial standpoint, and we've met Paul and Casey. So I'm going to dive into some questions, and we're going to try to hold to our commitment to get you out of here, but looking forward to some dialogue. I'm going to start with our Colliers crew on the brokerage side. If you could just tell us, and I'm going to start maybe on Mike and just kind of run it down. Looking forward, 2013, we saw some of the trend lines. We saw the increase in pricing. We saw positive absorption. What kind of trend do you see specifically in retail in 2013?
Looking forward to this year, one of the biggest challenges is going to be for national retailers and restaurants finding a good home in our major retail corridors. Space is tight. Developers are going to try to fill that void by getting rid of the old and bringing some new projects out of the ground.
And what about pricing?
Pricing is going to go up sharply throughout this year. When I say our major retail corridors, I mean the really hot ones, the Rivertown, the Alpine, the 28th Street Southeast, the Beltline, and Knapp. Those are getting the attention from the nationals.
Great. And Dave, you want to just hit from the office perspective?
Yeah, from the office perspective, and kind of touching on what you and Casey both said, we have seen 8 quarters in a row of positive absorption. In the past 24 months, we have absorbed 2.5 million square feet of office space. And our market's only about 17 million. So that is a nice increase. We see it continuing through 2013, nice, steady growth.
I'm going to jump to Colin. We'll get to you, Kathy. What are you seeing, Colin, next year?
Yeah, we're going to continue to see the price increases that we saw. The cap rates have come down quite a lot. You wonder how much further they continue to go, Casey, as you were pointing out. But as the quality of the inventory continues to improve, I think pricing is going to continue to improve. We'll probably see lower cap rates again next year. And really our biggest challenge now is finding product for buyers. We've got plenty of buyers. We're running out of product, and that's really the challenge that we are faced with in 2013.
Similar theme in industrial. Similar theme is the fact that we have users, and I'll split it into 2 components, manufacturing and warehousing. But on the manufacturing side, we have users that want nice facilities, heavily infrastructured, quality, recent construction facilities, and we're struggling to find those facilities. We saw quarter by quarter our sale rates on those types of facilities jumping. It'll continue to go through this year. There's no question we're going to see continued demand. We're going to have to get creative in finding solutions for those users who need a heavily infrastructured manufacturing building.
Good, thank you. Kathy, financing options. Casey alluded to some change in the winds. What do you see coming forward in 2013?
So when I think of financing options in today's market for 2013, it's like there is so many options. There's so much capital, as Casey said, on the sideline. And when I say capital, I mean both debt and equity. The life insurance companies are up in their allocations in the real estate sector. The CMBS, Conduit, Wall Street lenders are heavily active in the market. And when I say the market, it's just not your major metros, it's also your secondary, tertiary, West Michigan.
Yeah.
I just closed on a CMBS loan for an industrial property here in West Michigan with a national CMBS lender. So when you say financing options, it's kind of counterintuitive. There's so much money that there is so much options that it's such a buyer's market right now. I mean, right now we're in historical low interest rates, 3%, low 4s, 70, 75% loan to value. So really now is the time to get that capital. So there's between the local banks who are out very aggressive, as well as local national banks and the Fannie Freddie who are doing multifamily. So it's not a matter of what are the options, it's what option do you want as a borrower. So the tables have turned.
And I'm going to throw one at you. Is it a safe assumption that today West Michigan has a borrower in West Michigan has more options than we did 5 years ago?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because of the cost basis to get into this market. A lot of investors, the deal that we just closed last month was an out-of-state investor. They can't make those yields that they need to in, let's say, the major markets like Chicago, New York, Atlanta. So they're coming to these secondary markets like Michigan, like West Michigan. They can get the returns, they can get their yields, they get quality product, industrial sitting at 5% vacancy, and then you put cheap debt on it. I mean, low 4s, high 3s. You're going to hit it all the ballpark, even if vacancy moves.
And the contrast there is, 5 years ago, before the national dip, West Michigan was in a recession, right? Michigan was in a recession long before the rest of the nation. We've been struggling for years, and the national perception of us, we've always been we've been on that list over here.
Yeah, we're not redlined anymore.
And we're not anymore, and that really opens up some interesting options.
Eric, when we spoke up here in 2007, our story really was out-of-town people coming into West Michigan for the first time. That was the story in 2007. And the reality is today, if we look back at our last 2 quarters, 70% of our buyers are new people coming into the market looking at it for the first time. It's probably even more of a story today than it was in 07. So it is very real.
I'll throw this out, jump ball. Troubled properties. Are they still a factor? We saw locally, we saw that wave cresting. What's in the pipeline? What do you see from your specialty, from your perspective? How's that influencing things today, or is it? Jump ball.
In retail, the only issue we're seeing within retail is when it comes to appraisals, because not a lot of retail properties have changed hands over the past few years. So the appraisers they're reaching, trying to put a value on some of these properties, and they're using some of these bank assets that have traded hands, and it's a little bit of a challenge for us right now when it comes to appraisals.
But as far as troubled properties, you had talked about troubled properties, right?
Yep.
Industrial, we just don't have any more. We don't really have troubled properties. That got wiped out. If you were waiting for the bottom, you missed it 2 years ago on industrial properties. But I think it was Casey a year ago made a comment. He said, particularly in retail, he said, we're not overbuilt, we're under-demolished. And it didn't really make sense to me until I took a drive up to northern Michigan this summer with my family for a little vacation by Lake Charlevoix, and I go through all these little towns, and you see places that had retail in them, whether they were designed for it or they were reconfigured for it. But that saying hit me over and over and over again. We are not overbuilt, we're under-demolished in that segment. Is that still true, Mike? Or?
Definitely. I mean, there's projects around West Michigan right now, from Kalamazoo through Grand Rapids and Muskegon, where developers are taking these properties and just bulldozing them, where years ago they would try to retrofit them, or we've got to start from scratch on some of these. So the wrecking ball is much needed in retail.
On the troubled debt side, it's important to keep in stand. You look at the capital stack. So Kathy, you'll relate to this real well. If you look at the CMBS world, you look at the life company world, you look at the bank world, and you look at who has the least amount of distress by property type. Industrial is like a sliver. It's a rounding error. There is no troubled distressed debt in industrial. Primarily that went to the life company world. Very well underwritten, not a problem with it. So it's a sliver. Multifamily, you've divided it because of the activity of Freddie Mac. So what you have in the CMBS world on multifamily, this is the stuff that couldn't even make it to the GSEs, right? So a lot of this stuff is, it's Class C, triple C minus. I mean, this isn't good stuff. It needs a lot of capital R&R to it. And so when you look at the two big numbers, then you go to office and you go to retail. Office is the big behemoth. The problem with the office is you can't refinance this stuff if you don't have tenants. So, you know, what we're seeing now is very aggressive leasing. We just had a big deal in Atlanta. It was one of the largest leases ever done, where it was a major retailer. A brand new building sat empty for 2 years by a life company, had no debt on it. And they said, you know, if we want to get anything out of this thing, we got to put a tenant in it. So they gave over $100 a square foot in TIs on a 10-year lease at a rent that's almost 30% below replacement cost, just to get a tenant in there so they can leverage it at these low rates right now. And then on the retail side, again, it's the same problem. You know, it's probably going to be adaptive reuse is the theme. So when you look at the retail, look at what can I do, you know, else with it. And what we're seeing is services. I'd be interested in your comment, Mike. We're seeing more services go into retail than goods selling. And so I think that's going to be one of the things, and the issue there is going to be parking availability because the services use more parking intensity. So the capital stack is almost nothing industrial. Multifamily is bifurcated with Freddie, and then it's really retail and office that are the big pieces.
Thank you. Colin, 2013, cap rate compression, capital's available, debt's available. What does a good investment look like?
Sure. Well, that's changing quite a lot. The 10.5% cap rate that you saw in 09 was all distressed. It was buying opportunity, buy low, where there's an opportunity and hope that it increases in value, and lo and behold, it has. You really have to work a lot harder to find the right opportunity today. I think it's a long-term play. It's something that is well located, well stabilized, that can still be bought below replacement cost, and that you can put long-term debt on. Perfect example for us right now, Bridgewater Place. We're excited to announce and introduce to West Michigan a new buyer to the market called Hertz Investment Group. They're located out of Los Angeles, California. They've never bought anything in Michigan, and they're purchasing, well, they're under contract, working towards close in about 30 days, Bridgewater Place. What that does for our market is it brings new capital in that hasn't been here before, and it is very much a long-term play. So what they saw is the ability to buy that building well under replacement cost. It's a well-located building, a premier tower, and they could finance it for long-term debt. They'll work with somebody like Kathy for 10-year money at 3%. All of a sudden, it gives you a lot more flexibility. 99 Monroe, another building that a good client of our firm purchased earlier this year. Same strategy. It was 50% occupied at the time of purchase. That building's probably has $5 million going into it to get it stabilized. You can make that investment into the building because it's a long-term play and you can get cheap money for a long term. So you got to work hard to find the opportunities. But if it's well located and you can get long-term money, it's an incredible opportunity.
Thank you. So given all of that from each specialty, talk about rental rates. If I'm a tenant, what do I expect? Where do you see rental rates going? What should I be doing as a tenant? Mike.
Basically, it comes down to location's more important than ever for retailers. You know, a lot of them got some bloody noses during the downturn, so they are more focused than ever on the right location. So those rates are going to jump. They're going to spike quite a bit this year because it's just a massive flight to quality. We saw some tenants move around a few years ago with the Best Buy relocation on Alpine as an example. That's going to happen even more. There's new tenants coming into the market. They're all competing for those small little sweet spots in our corridors to make sure they can get as many of the consumers' dollars they're willing to spend.
Dude.
From an office standpoint, tenants should lock in long-term now. We have seen supply go down. The choices out in the market just aren't there currently. In 2012, in the CBD, 50% of the market traded hands. And these new landlords are well capitalized, as Colin said. They are making improvements, and they are committed to raising rates. With supply being where it is, with our continued growth, lock in long-term if you're a tenant.
Duke?
I think industrial, we're just going to have to see some new construction because we're getting to the point now that with manufacturing with no inventory, rates are moving up to a point where new construction becomes an option. This year we worked with First Companies here, built a new 85,000-foot build-a-suit for a tenant. And it was basically a warehouse building, but it had a little bit more infrastructure to it than what we have in our market. In the only option was to build new in that scenario. On a typical warehouse, we're going to see rates continue to creep up. We've seen the vacancy get absorbed in the warehouse sector, not quite as accelerated like the manufacturing sector, but it is getting absorbed. Rates are coming up. Consistent with what they're saying here, if you got a great building, the tenants had better start locking in early and locking in some term and some renewals, because we are seeing an increase, slow and steady on the warehouse side, and on the manufacturing side, adaptive reuse and new construction to fill that bill.
Great, thank you. I'm going to switch gears here for a minute. Gentlemen, Paul and Casey, talk to us. Yeah.
With a gentleman.
Yeah.
The gentleman
I know where I stand. I know where I stand. Talk to us a little bit about inflation. Likelihood, prognosis. Should we be afraid of it or not?
Well, certainly not for the first half of the year, and certainly not until we know where the government lands on whatever deal they're going to make. So we have a little bit of time. I think before we have to really worry about inflation, we're going to be past Bernanke, and we're going to be really looking at slightly fast. We need to see unemployment get a little bit lower before it's going to be a big problem.
Yeah, I think I would agree. I think we have a window here this year. I'm very nervous about 2014. So again, that's why I would get business done this year. The comedian Get Her Done. This is the Get Her Done year. The Fed has sown just incredible seeds of inflation. And to put it in perspective, the Fed's balance sheet, keep in mind, you know, when you talk about a balance sheet for the Fed, they produce nothing and they sell nothing. They have a printing press in the basement. So unlike the rest of us, when we need to add to our balance sheet, we have to go create, you know, wealth and income. The Fed just prints it. Their balance sheet now is 20% of our annual GDP. We're a $15 trillion economy. In 5 years, they've grown that to 20% of our annual economy. There is a day of reckoning for it in the subsidies here. So, and when this happens, the Fed thinks it can always navigate it perfectly and smoothly, and they never do. So this will happen, I think, rather quickly and abruptly, whether it's early 2014, later 2014, or into 2015. I think it's in a 2 to 3 year horizon. So I would enjoy this year. I'd get everything done, create your wealth, you know, just have a great year, and we'll find something else to be happy about next year.
I don't know if I should say thank you to that. Wild cards. We talked about some of them. Any other wild cards you think we should be looking at this year, Casey, Paul?
Well, I mean, we've talked about the major ones, and I think the biggest one would be a potential downgrade. A potential downgrade will bring a lot of stuff forward really fast, because it's going to change what banks have in reserves. It's going to change the value of the dollar very quickly, and no one knows what's going to happen. So if we get to that point, all bets are off the table.
Do you think that's an if or a when?
I think it's an if. I think we have very easy solutions that are very hard politically. And they're going to have to take them, because the negative side is just so huge. They're going to have to do it.
Yeah, I think I'd agree in strong principle about the wild cards. Aside from the debt downgrade, and I think the reason we have to look at it is we're adding $1 trillion of debt about every 10.5 months to our economy right now. So if you think of it, between the last couple of years of the Bush administration and Obama, basically we've added half of the debt in the history of our nation in basically a 6-year period of time. Unsustainable, and it trickles down at the state and the municipal level. So I think the debt downgrade is really a recognition, and remember what they said last year when Moody's did it in August, which was it was more about the dysfunctionality of our government and Congress to get the deal done. So it's more about the dysfunctionality. I don't see that any better. The other big, I think, wild card to pay attention to is the labor issues, the port labor strife. Because it affects everything, autos, our manufacturing, our exports, the things that we're doing right, that are working in the economy, can all get screwed up if we can't get our ports to function and move forward. So I think that's the one. Watch these dates. Watch February 6th for the East Coast, Gulf Coast, see if they kick that down the road again. It screws up the retailers, because in February is when they bring in all the spring merchandise, so it could affect them. And then remember, this all plays out on the West Coast next year, so I'd watch the port labor strife as a wild card.
I know it's just a hypothetical, but we see our economy, and particularly in West Michigan, the manufacturing, the industrial economy has really been lean, mean, and efficient, and it's been very active. We've grown well. What could that have looked like if we had some fiscal certainty at the federal level? What would have happened to this economy if we'd have had some fiscal certainty and some adults running the program? What would this have looked like?
I would suggest it'd be about 200 to 250 billion extra a year for the last 3 years. That much extra cash is just hiding because of the uncertainty.
It's, here's just one tax law change could take us from 150,000 jobs a month to about 300,000. And that is, a lot of our industry made a lot of money abroad, and they want to repatriate that capital. But there's just incredible tax consequences. And if we would just change the tax code to simply say, if you bring it back and put it in plant equipment or hiring people, there's minimal tax consequence, we could accelerate this manufacturing renaissance because the industry wants to come back here and at a faster pace. But two things are holding it back. One, our tax policy and repatriating the capital. And two, the uncertainty of what do I got to do on health care? What do I got to do in all of these different regulations? I think you're looking at it as much as a 50% constraint on our GDP growth.
Yeah, we would see that.
Thank you. Mike, everyone wants to know retailers. Any new retailers coming to town that we should be aware of that are exciting, that you see trends?
Sure. There's new retailers and there's existing retailers expanding. Five Guys Burgers and Fries, they've got a location picked on 28th Street Southeast. A lot of people are going to be excited about that. Chipotle has a second location under contract. Art Van has their Pure Sleep mattress stores. They're out there securing sites. Bagger Dave's is continuing to expand in our market. And when I say our market, I'm not trying to just limit us to Grand Rapids. There's Kalamazoo, there's Muskegon, there's Holland. Moe's Southwestern Grill is, they're working on sites in Kalamazoo right now and looking at stuff in Grand Rapids. Family Dollar's continuing to expand. Noodles just signed a new lease out in Granville. And Goodwill's continuing to expand throughout Western Michigan. The auto parts stores are out there, the AutoZones, the Advance, the O'Reilly's, Panera. I mean, we got downtown taken care of. They're still out doing deals all throughout greater Michigan. Ulta with their new store out in Granville. Sherwin-Williams Paint is out there looking at. And there's other retailers and restaurants looking at our market. They're looking at West Michigan, and quite frankly, they're looking at West Michigan first. Typically, a new retail or restaurant comes into Michigan. They start in Detroit with the heavy population and move west. Our low unemployment numbers are helping them switch gears and look at West Michigan first. So there's going to be some new names that are going to emerge over 13 that hopefully everybody's going to enjoy and really have fun with over this year.
Thank you. And so how is West Michigan viewed by the national retailers? So you go to the conventions in West Michigan, compared to a few years ago, different themes?
It is, and they're starting to understand the difference between West Michigan and the east side of the state. I mean, obviously the east side has much more retail than we have, but we're getting the focus. Grand Rapids, they're recognizing the name when we're at the national conventions. They're putting the effort here, and quite frankly, it's our low unemployment, it's our conservative atmosphere around here. We didn't overbuild. We don't have a lot of vacancy out there like the east side of the state. You can go down some retail corridors in all the Detroit suburbs, and there's some unfortunate large empty projects out there still. We've been conservative. We didn't overbuild. We're still under demolished. We've got to get some of the old down and build the new. So,
for the property specialist here, user opportunities. So if I'm a user, doesn't mean I invest in real estate as for an income stream. I need real estate to occupy my business. What are the opportunities I should be looking at this year? Anybody?
From an office standpoint, we're just seeing those opportunities get slimmer and slimmer. The user buyer buildings just are getting gobbled up, and we just don't see that as many choices. So you have to really look for them, really identify the areas you want to be, and look at it that way, because it's just getting tighter and tighter.
How about industrial, dude? Users?
We do have users, and in fact, just the last month of the year, the first month of this year, we've had 4 large, and these are 100,000-foot plus manufacturing plants, come off the market. We've eliminated the inventory. It's just not there. And so now we're looking at creative ways. People are moving outside of areas that they didn't want to be in. They're in buildings bigger than they wanted to be. They're in something that wasn't quite what they wanted. But they're going to have to make it work. I was talking this morning with a couple of people here, and we're working with a client who's put 10 acres under contract to build a new building. It's a manufacturing building. They're going to spend a lot of money. The bankers here struggle. How do we do that? The appraisers struggle. How do we do that? They're looking at 2-year-old numbers. They're looking backwards 2 years. And here we are trying to solve a solution. There is no inventory. They have no option. The only thing they can do is build new. And we're seeing if it's a high quality, really well-built industrial building, it's generating great demand. And it's interesting, we show a building in December, a nice one that we sold to a manufacturer, 140,000-foot building. We consider it a new building. It's 20 years old, but it's one of our newest industrial buildings. And for the last 12 years, our inventory of industrial has been created out of large shutdowns, major manufacturing shutdowns. We took Bosch, we took Steelcase campus. You know, you take the Meridian office plants, you take the Lifesavers plant. All these big shutdowns was our inventory because we haven't built new manufacturing. That's gone. There are no more shutdowns. You hear this week that the farm guys up in Coopersville at the Delphi plant started their dairy operation there a couple years ago. They're expanding it rapidly. $124 million, I think, was the number of improvement. That's an old auto manufacturing building. We've converted them all to food manufacturing and to other things. So it's going to be an interesting one on the manufacturing side. It's going to be tough. Warehouse, we still have some inventory. As manufacturing grows, that warehouse will fill up and we'll see that take off.
You know, two themes that keep reemerging here. One is adaptive reuse. And so I think, you know, for the lenders and the bankers, and, you know, Kathy, you know this, it's such a harder thing to, you know, to get them to wrap their minds around a closed branch bank going into retail, or you know, an old manufacturing plant going into another adaptive reuse. And the second one is, guess what? Demand for land is back. I wrote a piece earlier this year, where did demand for my land go for the National Association of Realtors? It is back. And so banks, that you have that stuff that's buried away, you don't want to talk about, this land, and now's the time to dust it off and bring it back. There actually is demand for land. I think that's going to be a really important thing.
Absolutely. So switching from users to landlords, and Colin, maybe you want to hit that. I'm a landlord in this market, looking at 2013. What should I be considering? What do I need to be analyzing and putting on the game plan this year?
Sure. Well, I mean, the number one thing I think this theme has come up too is lock in now with those interest rates. I mean, if you have an ability to refinance at all, now's the time to do it. It's hard to imagine capital getting any cheaper, and I think that's probably over. So position your building well. If you can extend, I mean, to do that, you may need to extend out one of your tenants. And obviously, if the tenant is seeing the market tightening up around them, they're going to be willing to work with you to extend. This is a mutually beneficial thing. Blend and extend together, extend the term. It's going to put your building in a better position to be able to refinance. So, I mean, from a landlord's perspective, that's the key takeaway this year is if you can refinance your building or lock into the low-term interest rates, do it, as long as you can.
And one thing we're seeing is that we're having more and more landlords come to us. Their loan may come due in a year or 2 years. There's a prepayment penalty, but they're sitting at 6 or 7% interest rate because they locked in 5 or 6 years ago. It even now makes sense because where interest rates are to pay that prepayment penalty, and with the tax codes, if it's defeasance, you can write that off. So, you know, even though you have, let's say, a hefty prepayment penalty, doing the economics over a 10-year loan, locking in at high 3s, low 4s, you're going to recoup that prepayment penalty. So we're doing that exercise a lot for our landlords when they're refinancing.
Okay, so that's from the financing side as a landlord. Maybe David or Duke, somebody want to tell me, okay, I'm a landlord, what do I need to be doing to position myself to get the tenants?
I guess starting from an office standpoint, one thing we're seeing is for the first time in a long time, we are switching from a tenants market in the office to a landlord market. So the belief would be that a landlord really needs to be well capitalized, being able to do the improvements, improving their properties, and they will continue to get tenants. They don't need to give the deals away anymore. Concessions are tightening. Rents are going up slowly. And the tough spot that landlords are in are the really Class C, the Class C minus that you had mentioned earlier. That's going to continue to struggle. But boy, the Class A and Class B market should really continue to improve, and landlords' positions should improve.
Duke, would you say similar for industrial?
Very similar. You can't just put the building out there the way it is. It has to be repositioned to meet the needs of the market. We've done that over the past few years by raising roofs, splitting buildings in half, anything you have to do to get that building to meet the current market demands.
You know, for landlords, You know, we talk a lot of times about the bigger properties in the urban, the Class A, and we forget about, you know, the suburban guy that's got the smaller space that hasn't participated in this yet. This housing recovery story is going to have a tremendous beneficial effect for the suburban space, the multi-tenant industrial business park that hasn't participated, that doesn't need 36-foot clear. The contractors, I was talking with Kathy last night, that we found that 60% of the contractors in the housing industry that pulled back, you know where they went with their business? They went into self-storage. They rented 2 self-storage bays to operate in and out of. Well, now that things are coming back, they're going to move back into those suburban environments. That'll stimulate retail as well. So for the landlords with suburban stuff that you've not participated, this housing piece, I think, will help you tremendously. Pay attention to it.
David, speaking of suburbs, you want to just quick compare and contrast downtown office market, suburbs?
Yeah, but both in 2012 and moving in 2013, both have been very positive. Downtown has really continued to outshine everything. A lot of that is groups like Spectrum Health, GVSU, MSU, continuing to have a real stake in downtown Grand Rapids. We also have seen so much great press lately on what the city's doing, what's happening downtown, the activities, so it is the place to be. Both will continue to be positive, but downtown will lead that charge.
If that continues, think back to 2004, 2005, we used to brag about how many cranes were in the air around town. It's been a while. If that trend continues downtown, you think we'll see some cranes in the air?
Yes. I think in 2013 we'll see a new office tower project. Absolutely.
And it's been a while.
And I think you'll see a feeding frenzy on the lender side wanting to finance that pre-leased office and multifamily.
Good. And so construction, you know, maybe Duke, we talked about we have to build, right? We've got these users who this is their only option. At what point do we see somebody saying, I'm going to build on spec? I'm going to, you know, a developer's going to say, I hear what's happening. I'm going to put it up because I know they're going to come. Yeah. At what point do you think that's going to happen?
Well, you've seen an announcement this week that one of our local developers says he's going to build more warehouse. And candidly, that's just not the market that we need, but it's the easiest building to build. It's a box, it's simple, you put it out there. Unfortunately, that's not what the market that drives this is needing right now. It's pretty hard to build a spec building for a manufacturer. That's pretty unique. And just on the manufacturing component, we have talked about it here for a while, how West Michigan is leading the charge on the rebirth of manufacturing. We've been hearing it here for years. Nationally, we look like fools when we say that. But Casey, you hear it. Paul, we've talked about it. The fact is there's a huge insourcing of manufacturing back to the states, and it's going to go to places that are the southern right-to-work states, or it's going to go to places like West Michigan, which has always operated as if it was a right-to-work zone. And we have incredible appetite for space. We got a call Wednesday for a heavy manufacturer looking for a 350,000 square foot existing standalone facility. When we look at that raw dynamic, there's not a single building in our market that meets his needs. And yet they want to be here. So it's going to get interesting. It's going to be interesting on that front as we move forward. But the West Michigan mentality, the image we have of manufacturing is in what we have here is what the nation and candidly internationally is looking for, and we need to take the lead in this.
What are the bottlenecks for us locally to deal with to unleash some of that? Is it real estate? Is it labor? Is it land? Is it all the above?
It's interesting. The big star at the auto show this year was the new Chevrolet Corvette. And one of the key components on that Chevrolet Corvette is they talk about the frame, but they talk about the components of it, the carbon fiber hoods on that Corvette. The world's first high-volume carbon fiber manufacturing plant is located in West Michigan. They came here looking a couple years ago. We showed them 3 or 4 buildings. They said, you're lying to us. There's got to be a lot more buildings. There's got to be buildings laying all over the place, right? They left the market, went to other places. They looked out of state. They looked other areas. But they wanted to come back here because of our supplier base, our skill sets. I forget the acronym, the ICEE that you have. But they want to be here because of all of that. They came back to the market a year later. 3 of the 4 buildings were already gone. They had 1 building option. They took it, and they are going to be at capacity substantially earlier than they ever thought they'd be. Our bottlenecks is going to be quality manufacturing facilities, because to get a new project in place, it's going to be tough. To get one start to finish is a long time. You got a lot of hurdles there. So the quality of inventory is an issue. We're starting to run into, Paul, you talked about it, on the labor side. The manufacturers, I've got help wanted signs out. When you walk in, they've got help wanted signs. You don't have to go very far. Drive down I-196 as you're heading towards Holland today, and you'll see a big sign hanging from a crane out there. Help wanted, apply within. That's going to be a bottleneck for our people. But fortunately, we have some great training programs, and these facilities are running truly with a lot less people.
Casey, maybe from your perspective, 2013, which property types pose maybe the biggest risk? So maybe lenders in the audience, property owners in the, where are the landmines in 2013 from just a property type?
You know, unfortunately, and I'll do it because it's a safe distance, it's still retail. the big guy's all the way at the end of the podium. And again, it's just because, retail, it had a little more momentum going into it, so it survived a little bit longer. And it's harder to get it going. And we haven't got the jobs, we haven't had the housing recovery come back as quickly, so that demand component isn't there. So I think the retail, you got to do your homework. You got to understand the demand drivers. I mean, you can be, I tell people, you can have two developments, and one doing well and one doing not so well, and it can be the school district, or it could be, just something very simple that only the local guy would understand. So I think retail's still a big challenge. Retail's remaking itself. It's going to an e-commerce model. We're at 8 to 10% of retail sales in e-commerce today. That'll be 30% within 3 years. The whole supply chain remake. More retail is going to go a service model, I think. So how you deal with, you don't have the volume of parking that you need, because when you're selling goods, it's in and out real quickly. When you have a service, you're there an hour or 2 hours, for medical or a hair salon. So I think the retail is the biggest challenge. The second is probably office, because it's more capital intensive. The big TI dollars, you've got a smaller population of investor owner that can put up the dollars to bring the tenant in. I think it's a capital barrier on that side. Industrial's the home run. Multifamily is starting to lose it. It shimmered a little bit, but people, if they go back and look at how many jobs do you need per unit and start doing that analysis, I think you get more comfortable. You freak out about Washington, D.C., but you don't other markets. So, we're going to have to go back to dusting our old books off and remembering, what are the metrics we look at to start justifying new construction? What are the occupancy cost ratios for retail with services versus goods servicing? On office with a higher density employee per square foot, that puts more challenges on the expense stop. So how do you rethink those things? So again, I think retail has the most challenges. Office is next because it's capital constrained. Industrial's a home run, can just dictate its terms. And I think multifamily, you stay out of, if we just don't do the concentration problem all in 5 markets, there's plenty of demand. And I would say don't forget land. It's probably up there with industrial. And ag is probably up there with industrial as well. Buy a farm.
This is something I know Duke gets passionate about. The West Michigan, we're kind of beating national trends right now, and which is an interesting place. I know years ago we'd go to a national convention, we'd be out introducing, and you're almost embarrassed sometimes to say you're from Michigan because the perception of the state compared to the nation, it's changed dramatically, and I think it's changed faster than I think any of us would have anticipated. Duke and Paul can probably provide some commentary on this too. Why do you think that is?
Part of it is that what we're great at is what's needed in the market. So it isn't necessarily anything we did different. It's just that the world has changed a little bit, and what we're great at is what's needed in the world. And yet I would say some things have changed in Michigan. We lost a great mayor this year in West Michigan. Mayor Root passed away, mayor of Kentwood. That guy got in the city of Kentwood, 10 years ago, and he said, Kentwood's open for business, and are going to make sure it's understood that it's open for business. And he changed the way we operated in Kentwood. I can tell everybody in here who's done business in Kentwood saw from top to bottom that city change its attitude on how business was dealt with. In the state of Michigan, we have a governor. I don't think any of us knew quite what to expect. We may have liked him, we may not have liked him, we may have supported him, not have supported him. But I'll tell you what, that guy's taking care of business. He could use the same frame of mind that Mayor Root had, which is, Michigan's open for business. But he's taking care of business, and the business people understand it. The businesses understand it. We need to get the uncertainty out of the mix. It's a tax on business that is so great that it's incalculable, and he's put some certainty in place. So some of those things are being done that have been beneficial to us. But I'll tell you, pick up magazines. I have one here called The Atlantic that came out in the last 20, 30 days. It's titled The Insourcing Boom. We've been talking about this here for so long. But read this, and it's amazing on what's happening, and why it's happening, and why it's going to continue to happen. And the Upper Great Lakes, as Casey and Paul talked about today, is going to be a big beneficiary, not the only one, but a big beneficiary if we can keep the uncertainty out, our policies in place that support business, enhance business. You know, that's just a critical piece. And the other thing, I read a quote yesterday, a broker in Chicago, a CBRE broker, said, success in business and life is not evil. Success in business and life is not evil, and it should be celebrated. I think West Michigan, we celebrate the success as well, and we got to do it over and over and over. You know, I'm kind of back when people call and they talk about Michigan, or they talk about a building or a project and you say we're in Michigan, they used to hang up. You know, it's like when I used to call girls for a date. It was like, who? Click. Today, it's like, where are you? Talk about it. And then we do our West Michigan. It's a really great conversation now, and we're the beneficiaries of it. You guys in the room are the ones who've helped make that.
Well, and we also have the benefit of the fact that we were in a recession from 2001 until 2011, really. And it caused the weak to go away. The businesses that are left are very strong. The efficiency levels are extremely high here in Michigan, and people understand that. So we are actually a beneficiary of all those bad times that we had for a decade, because we're lean and mean now, and we're winning.
And even culturally, you know, it was 10 years ago, you talked to a college student and it was, what do you want to do, where do you want to go? They wanted to go to Chicago, they wanted to go someplace else. You talk to most college students, you more than anybody, they want to be here, they want to stay here. I mean, I couldn't have scripted it better. The first day that we brought the new buyer in to tour Bridgewater was the opening weekend of Art Prize. I mean, you want to talk about a sales pitch that goes well. I mean, we walked outside the door, the streets are flooded with people, he can't get a hotel room to save his life. I mean, little things like that, cultural things about what this community is, makes people want to live here. So it even goes beyond the workforce.
Yeah, one other element, America is waking up finally to the fact that we actually have a fourth coast. It's called the Great Lakes. And the trade to Russia, to Northern Europe, St. Lawrence Seaway isn't frozen up 6 months a year, maybe about 6-8 weeks, honestly. And so that is you're now a coastal market. And I would put that in your marketing, the fourth coast. Manufacturing, water, energy, all those things, the flow of the materials that you need for the manufacturing and the access to the intellectual resources, the universities, the technical training, all that. It's sitting all right here. In affordability, when you look at manufacturing, right, you need access to the skilled labor in an affordable market where they can have a family and own a home. And you offer that, and a lot of the rest of the country, we don't.
Good. All right, I'm gonna try to throw out one last one for each of you to hit, wrap up kind of question. Fast forward 1 year. We hope to be here next year. We hope you're here next year. It's 2014, and I get to go over these slides and talk about what happened. From your specialty, from your perspective, what happened in 2013?
2013, retail lease rates are going to go up. New tenants are going to enter the market that we've never had in Michigan before. The major corridors are going to get even cleaned up a little bit more, with like the Center Point and the new project in Granville. We're going to see a little bit more of our major corridors get cleaned up, new tenants, and some great activity this year.
From an office standpoint, continued growth, raising rates in the market, new construction, a new office tower downtown. I think those will be the big topics.
For 2013, it's going to be a great time to be a borrower. Interest rate, debt is cheap, high 3s, low 4s. You're going to see that throughout the year. You're going to look back and lock in 70, 75% non-recourse, long-term fixed money. There'll be plenty of lenders, different types of lenders, life companies, CMBS lenders, private hedge funds, coming into the secondary markets here throughout Michigan, it's going to be a flow of capital. And so taking advantage of it as a borrower is key in 2013.
Yeah, from an investment perspective, it's going to be a lot like 2012. 2012 was a great year as it relates to transaction volume and out-of-town people looking in West Michigan. I think that's what 2013 is going to hold. Our demand for product is as high as it was in 06, 07, which saw peak pricing. Our pricing hasn't gotten back there, but our demand is just as high. So I think you're going to see increasing pricing, and you know, our real task is to find good product that these out-of-town people want to buy.
Similar for industrial, and whether I wear the tenant hat or the landlord hat, the activity is going to continue. Solutions are going to be a little bit more difficult to come by, and rates are going to climb. It's that simple.
Well, let's see. I'll take on the one where economists get zeros all the time, which is predicting politicians. I'm going to predict that we come up with at least a reasonable solution by the end of May, which gives us a great second half, and we'll be sitting here talking about worrying about inflation before the end of 2014.
Neither the Republicans or Democrats win any national elections. Oh, yeah, it's not an election year. Thank God we put capital back to where it belongs. I think 2013 will go down as kind of a year that the economy, we finally recognize we're back despite the dysfunctionality of Congress. I think it'll be absolutely the watershed movement back into the commercial real estate where banking and real estate, the first parts, bank and real, are not four-letter words. And I think the other thing we're going to begin to realize at the end of the year is that rising interest rates don't necessarily mean that we can't finance real estate anymore. The front page of the Wall Street Journal this morning is talking about the pension funds shifting and partnering up with private equity to get into what they perceive as the higher yielding assets such as real estate. They use the Texas Teachers Retirement System in there. I think we're going to put upside down our notion that the demand of investment in cap rates, where equity is very expensive and debt's cheap, and if you have cheap interest rates and low interest rates, you can have low cap rates. I think we will actually turn that upside down because the amount of equity capital on the sidelines, that equity will fill the gap that expensive debt rises to, and that we can still stay in very affordable cap rate ranges. But it's going to be the sweet spot. We'll look back and really celebrate 2013 and wish we could, it really for the first time, 13 will be a lucky number.
Thank you. I just want to give the panelists just a round of applause, thanking them for their time. That is officially a wrap. So on behalf of Colliers and GVSU, I want to thank you for your attendance. It means a lot to us. In about half an hour-ish, you should all be getting an email, probably from me. And this goes out as a survey. We're asking for your input. This is an event we've been doing for many years. We always try to tweak a thing or two, and some of the tweaks today are a result of the input we got last year. Your input matters. We do appreciate that. So if you take the time to fill that survey out, once you do, you also have access to many of the materials here today. So, and again, we are here for you both now and in the future. If you've got questions, you need insight, Casey's available, Paul's available. We're here to try to help you wade through the next year. So on behalf of all of us, I'd just like to again say thank you very much. Well, I saw my baby